Ever had your fully loaded Carrack vaporized in seconds by an opponent you never even saw? I still remember the sinking feeling in my gut when it happened to me, that moment of disbelief followed by frustration. What if I told you it wasn't desync, wasn't server issues, wasn't just bad luck, but something far more concerning? Something that's been growing in the shadows while we've all been distracted by the next shiny ship announcement. The truth about what's happening in the verse is something most players don't want to acknowledge. And honestly, I get it. None of us want to believe our favorite game could be compromised, but we can't afford to ignore it anymore. I've put in over 1,500 hours in Star Citizen since, 2016, I think? From hauling cargo in my trusty old freelancer, to mining with friends, to those white-knuckle PvP encounters that leave you shaking afterward. And you know what's strange? Those impossible deaths started happening more frequently after server meshing launched. At first, I did what we all do, blamed the usual suspects. Must be the server tick rate again, I'd mutter to my org mates. Classic desync, we'd all agree. But then I started noticing patterns. Little things that didn't add up. Moments where the explanation of just alpha things felt like a convenient shield for something more deliberate. Look, I'm not here to create drama or point fingers at specific players. I love this community too much for that. I'm here because after thousands of hours and, yeah, probably too much money spent on ships, I genuinely care about this game's future. And whether you're still flying your starter ship or sitting on a hangar full of capital vessels, this affects your gameplay experience directly. Probably more than you realize or want to admit. Let's be clear about what we're discussing here. I'm talking about unauthorized third-party software and exploits that give players unfair advantages in Star Citizen. From ESP manipulation that enhances targeting capabilities beyond intended parameters to location exploitation that bypasses normal game barriers. It's already happening. I know because I've seen it. We've all seen it, even if we didn't recognize it for what it was at the time. In technical terms, and I apologize for getting into the weeds a bit here, we're talking about client-side manipulation that the server validation currently struggles to detect due to the game's distributed physics and entity handling. Or more simply put, people using programs to see through walls, teleport items, or gain combat advantages that the game's current architecture can't consistently identify. It's like having someone who can see through your cards in a poker game, except the stakes can be hours of your time lost in seconds. Most players believe this isn't really an issue yet because nothing matters in alpha anyway. And I get that mentality, I really do. But that's exactly why we need to address it now, before permanent persistence makes the stakes truly devastating. Before we're all losing ships with actual insurance timers, cargo that took real effort to acquire, or worst of all, our characters to death of a spaceman mechanics, while someone else is playing by entirely different rules. Here's something most Star Citizen content never covers. Cheating isn't coming to the game, it's already here, and has been for years. The foundation was laid with early exploits like item duplication and wall glitching. Remember when we could just walk through certain parts of space stations? Remember how long that stayed in the game? And how many players defended it as just finding creative gameplay opportunities? Remember Jumptown 2.0? Those suspicious players who always seemed to know exactly when and where you were approaching from? I'm not saying everyone with good situational awareness was cheating, but come on, not all of that was good game sense. Some of it was players with tools, giving them information they shouldn't have had access to. I was at SBK about 3 months ago, just trying to clear my crime stat, the usual criminal lifestyle, and I watched a player take headshots on 3 different opponents who were approaching from completely different angles within seconds, without ever being seen on anyone's screen. The server tick rate is bad, sure, but it's not, I've suddenly developed an invisibility cloak bad. There's something else happening there. What's particularly concerning is how 3.22 server meshing, while solving many issues we've dealt with for years, created new vulnerabilities, as computational tasks are distributed differently. It's almost like the game's increasing complexity doesn't just create more features for us to enjoy. It creates more exploitable seams between systems for those looking to take advantage. Think about your last few play sessions. Be honest with yourself for a second. Did you encounter any players whose abilities seemed to defy the limitations of the game? Maybe someone who knew exactly where you were despite having no line of sight? Someone whose aim seemed impossibly precise? That's not me encouraging paranoia, I promise. It's just asking for a bit of awareness. Before we could even process what was happening, a Gladius swooped in and destroyed us with incredible precision. 3 shots, boom, gone. The strange part? Our ship's systems showed no damage registration until we were already exploding. The whole encounter lasted maybe 8 seconds. I don't know how to describe it, except cheated, literally. The combination of impossibly precise positioning, bypass of all warning systems, and the suspicious damage pattern left my crew silent in Discord. We just lost hours of work to something that didn't feel like fair gameplay. That's when I started paying closer attention. Not because I wanted to find cheaters behind every asteroid, but because I needed to understand what was really happening in the game I'd invested so much in. Now, here's where things get interesting. What can actually be done about this issue? Star Citizen's development has always prioritized fidelity and immersion over security. Understandably so, during alpha. I mean, we all want those gorgeous planets and responsive ships more than we want robust anti-cheat systems, right? At least, that's been the priority. CIG's focus on easy anti-cheat implementation in 2021 was a step in the right direction, but it's simply not enough for a game with this architecture. It's like putting a standard lock on a vault full of gold bars. It keeps honest people honest, but it won't stop someone truly determined. For immediate protection, experienced players should consider a few approaches. First, record suspicious encounters for reporting. I know, Pixar didn't happen has become almost a meme in the community, but documentation matters. Second, implement operational security, like random route planning for valuable cargo runs. Sounds paranoid until you lose millions to something suspicious. And third, utilize organizational security practices, like escort ships and counterintelligence. My org has actually started using scout ships flying ahead of valuable transports, not just for NPC pirates, but for unusual player activity. For newer players who might be thinking, great, another thing to worry about, I recommend limiting high-value solo activities and learning to distinguish between normal server issues and potential exploitation. The difference is often in the patterns. Random glitches feel random, they happen to everyone, while targeted exploitation follows predictable patterns focused on player advantage. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. The Star Citizen community remains deeply divided on this issue, and I understand both sides. I really do. Spectrum forums feature heated debates between those who believe cheating is rampant and those who dismiss every claim as normal alpha behavior. I've seen threads locked faster than a Pisces can land at a station. The Reddit community tends to downvote cheat accusations without investigation, which is frustrating but comes from a good place of not wanting to foster paranoia. Meanwhile, Discord servers often contain private channels where suspicious activities are documented away from public view. I'm in several of these, and the patterns emerging are concerning, to say the least. As one veteran backer told me over a quantum trip from Microtech to ArcCorp, SIG can't fix what the community won't acknowledge. Or as we used to say during the original Jumptown Wars, it's not paranoia if they really can see through mountains. Remember those days when we'd see someone pinpoint our exact location despite being behind terrain? We all knew what was happening, we just didn't want to say it out loud. The real question isn't whether cheating exists, it's how prevalent it will become when persistence makes every loss permanent. When your death means something, how many players will be tempted to ensure they're never the ones dying? Here's exactly how to protect yourself while SIG develops better solutions. Step 1. Implement operational security. I know it sounds like overkill, but never announce valuable cargo runs in global chat. I've seen too many Nigers, just loaded up my C2 with Laranite, heading to Loreville messages followed by surprised, "How did they find me?" complaints. Vary your routes, altitudes, and approaches to destinations. Basic stuff that makes a difference. Step 2. Document suspicious encounters. Enable Star Citizen's built-in recording features. Alt F12 if you haven't set it up yet, and save footage of questionable player interactions. Not just for reporting, but for your own sanity check. Sometimes watching it back helps distinguish between typical game behavior and something unusual. Step 3. Report through proper channels. Use the RSI website's Zendesk system rather than in-game reporting, providing detailed information and any evidence. In-game reports often don't capture enough context, and they're easier to dismiss. Step 4. For high-value operations, use scout ships and multiple approach vectors to identify unusual activity before committing valuable assets. My org has started doing this regularly, and it's saved us millions in potential losses. Most importantly, understand that knowledge is your best defense. Knowing how these exploits work helps you recognize patterns and avoid high-risk scenarios until better protections are implemented. It's not about becoming paranoid, it's about being realistically cautious in a game where the stakes keep getting higher. To summarize, cheating in Star Citizen exists now, will grow worse as stakes increase, and requires both developer action and community awareness to address effectively. I'm not sharing this to scare you away from the game. I love Star Citizen, bugs and all. I'm sharing because ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear. After watching this video, take some time to review your own recent suspicious encounters. Were they simply server issues, or was something else happening? The line can be blurry, I know, but sharing experiences helps us all. Drop your stories in the comments. The more data points we collect, the clearer the picture becomes, and the more CIG will need to acknowledge it. Hit like if you found this information valuable, not to boost my metrics, but because it helps more players see this conversation. And consider joining our Discord where we have a dedicated channel for documenting and discussing potential exploitation in the verse. No witch hunts, no naming and shaming, just awareness and protection strategies. Together, we can help protect this incredible game we all want to succeed. Thank you for taking the time to understand this critical but often ignored aspect of Star Citizen's development. I know it's not the most uplifting topic. We'd all rather be talking about the next ship sale or feature release. Soon, I'll be covering how server meshing changes fundamental security paradigms and what it means for your day-to-day gameplay. Remember, in the verse, situational awareness isn't paranoia, it's survival. I've had to learn that the hard way through lost ships, cargoes, and time. As you move closer to a persistent universe where death has consequences, the difference between success and failure might not be your skill, your ship loadout, or even your strategy, but your ability to recognize when you're not playing on a level field. Stay vigilant, citizens. I'll see you in the verse.